Beyond Meat is having a pretty rotten year. A year so rotten, in fact, that honestly, if they survive another year, it'll be an act of divine intervention. Every bit of bad news possible for them is coming out now, and this story just takes the cake. Imagine, if you will, being a food manufacturer or a restaurant, and your facilities are reported in the biggest trade industry publications as having found the worst food poisoning pathogens on site. That would be a big oopsie. In a year where every other month we get more bad news for Beyond Meat, they can't afford bad reporting of this scale. To underscore how bad of news this really is for Beyond Meat, Bloomberg News, one of the most mainstream media organizations in the United States, and their economic reporting is generally considered to be pretty good, all things considered, they came up with this report. Headline: Beyond Meat's plant dirty conditions revealed in photos, documents. The facility in Pennsylvania illustrates the alt meat maker's ongoing difficulties. This is profoundly bad news for the fake meat industry, and especially for the flagship meat alternative being pushed by investors and by politicians. But that photo is not exactly flattering for Beyond Meat, to put it mildly. That company is in a lot of trouble. From the article, quote, photos and internal documents from a Beyond Meat Incorporated plant in Pennsylvania show apparent mold, listeria, and other food safety issues, compounding problems at a factory the company had expected to play a major role in its future. Products from the plant tested positive for listeria, a harmful bacteria, on at least 11 occasions during the second half of last year and the first half of 2022, according to an internal document provided by a former employee concerned about conditions at the plant. The occurrence of the bacteria at the facility was confirmed by two former employees, who asked not to be named, discussing private information about the company. While listeria is frequently present at food plants, it's more unusual for it to be found in the products themselves. End quote. So yeah, listeria found in the fake meat. That sounds like a health food to me. Now, if you don't know what listeria is, it's really bad news. Let's take a moment to check in with trusted authorities like the CDC for some official government guidance on just how bad listeria is. From the article on the CDC website, quote, listeriosis is a serious infection caused by the germ Listeria monocytogenes. People usually become ill with listeriosis after eating contaminated food. The disease primarily affects pregnant women, newborns, older adults, and people with weakened immune systems. It's rare for people in other groups to get sick with listeria infection. Listeriosis is usually a mild illness for pregnant women, but it causes severe disease in the fetus or newborn baby. Some people with listeria infections, most commonly adults 65 years and older, and people with weakened immune systems, develop severe infections of the bloodstream, causing sepsis, or of the brain, causing meningitis or encephalitis. Listeria infections can sometimes affect other parts of the body, including bones, joints, and sites in the chest and abdomen. End quote. In other words, listeria is a superfood poisoning that affects the most vulnerable people in the population. And what have we learned from the former vegans, who either went full carnivore or at least went whole food animal based after leaving the vegan religion? Their immune systems were compromised until they corrected their diet, because the vegan diet is not anywhere on the proper human diet spectrum. This is a bad look for Beyond Meat, to put it rather mildly. But back to the Bloomberg article, though, because this whole thing just gets better. Quote, photos taken by a former employee from inside the plant in January and April show what appear to be spills, unsafe use of equipment, and mold on walls and ingredient containers, while spreadsheets, photos, and internally prepared reports reveal that foreign materials such as string, metal, wood, and plastic have been found in food from the plant at least as recently as last December. Inspections by the Pennsylvania Department of Agriculture in March and September found, quote, no instances of nonconformance with regulations, and the company's food safety protocols, quote, go above and beyond industry and regulatory standards, a spokesman for Beyond Meat said. The company didn't comment on its internal documents or specific details about the conditions in its plant, such as the apparent presence of mold and references to safety violations. Quote, mold growth takes a while. That underscores a lack of cleanliness, said Bill Marler, a food safety attorney, after viewing some of the photos. If neat and tidy is 1 and filthy is 10, I'd put this at an 8. End quote. Oof. That sounds delicious, though, doesn't it? Some metal shavings and literal plastic with your frankenfood, all made in conditions that are an 8 on a 1 to 10 filthiness scale. This is obviously not the first near failure for the company this year. Their stock has crashed, especially amidst economic problems that result in their potential customers giving up luxury-based lifestyles like veganism, which is the ultimate first-world lifestyle for those living in comfort. People are instead choosing real and more basic foods, which are cheaper across the board. This is all outlined pretty well, actually, in another article from bonappetit.com, a food culture magazine online that is usually pretty friendly to organized veganism. So again, from the people who recommend restaurants to you and try to get restaurants to adopt new things, headline, Beyond Meat is having a no good, very bad year. Following sales, a mold and listeria outbreak in one of its plants. A former COO who bit a man's nose. Now, that last story is most tragically funny of the stories here, probably. Maybe he ate too many Beyond Burgers and it all kind of went to his head. But at the start of 2022, Beyond Meat was the future of protein, or so we were told. Then 2022 happened to them, and honestly, it'll be surprising if in December of 2023 they're still around. Or if they are, they're not facing massive restructuring. From that article, quote, for Beyond Meat, 2022 has been a series of stumbles, even preceding this one. As of the second quarter of this year, the company, which serves an array of meat substitutes like plant-based burgers, fake meat chicken tenders, and vegetarian sausages, mostly found in grocery stores, posted a net loss of $97.1 million. Its partnership with McDonald's serving a plant-based burger tanked across the U.S. And of course, who could forget its COO's arrest and suspension after he bit a man's nose? These can only mean one thing. The brand is firmly ensconced in its flop era. How did the company, astronomically valued over $10 billion in 2019 after an incredibly successful public offering, come crashing down to earth so spectacularly? At the root of the problem, it seems, are those slower than expected sales. Beyond Meat, which saw impressive growth over the events of 2020 and 2021, failed to meet this year's projected growth rate of 33%, despite releasing new products like Beyond Steak and a line of jerkies onto the market. The company winnowed down its workforce in August as a cost-cutting measure, and then laid off a further 19% of its workforce, amounting to 200 employees. That further 19% meaning on top of the initial winnowing. Plus, it wasn't a boon to stock prices when Beyond Meat COO Doug Ramsey allegedly bit off a chunk of a man's nose in September. Ramsey got into an argument in a parking garage. Relatable. After a football game. Understandable. And after punching through the back window of his victim's car, as one does. See, the author here has a sense of humor. He got into a physical altercation with the man, eventually biting off a piece of his nose. Ramsey was arrested and subsequently suspended from his role at Beyond. Beyond Meat stock has plunged a staggering 83% in the past year, and its prospects, quite frankly, aren't looking great. Experts suggest inflation has had an impact on the fake meat industry, as shoppers have passed over brands like Beyond in favor of less expensive options, although a spokesperson for Impossible Foods told the New York Times that it is seeing, quote, hypergrowth. That's concerning. As investment research analyst David Traynor told Bloomberg, quote, Beyond Meat can't make money selling their product. They sell it at a loss. And at the end of the day, if you can't fix that, you've got no hope. End very lengthy quote. And it just goes on and on. Beyond Meat is one of those companies that after it's gone will be a cautionary tale told in business schools and on the web about corporate hubris and acting irrationally after unique global events temporarily provide a positive impact on a company. And then the company foolishly thinking that those events marked a new opportunity for the company. Everyone knows about businesses that didn't survive the events of 2020 and 2021, but a whole host of businesses are not going to survive the aftermath of those events either. And probably Beyond Meat will be the highest profile of those companies. Now, do you think Beyond Meat will survive another year? Let me know in the comments, please. Like and subscribe if you haven't. That really does help. Sharing this on social media helps a lot as well. I'm Anthony Stine, the Practical Carnivore. Thanks for watching.